What's up everybody, Demon back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we are going to be talking about Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019 and the possibility of it being a remake of 1964's Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, or Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Now, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster had a very complex plot, something that is for sure not going to be recreated 100% in Godzilla King of the Monsters. To understand Godzilla King of the Monsters being a remake of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and possibly what will be carried over from the original into the new movie, we first have to take a look at the plot of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. So generally the plot goes like this. Strange things are happening on Earth, there are meteors falling, and there's a heat wave in the middle of the winter. There's a princess that's nearly assassinated, but last minute she's saved by a Venusian force. A meteor crashes in the mountains and it possesses some strange magnetic powers. Soon, a prophetess appears and she starts predicting the death of Earth. The prophetess is the princess from earlier being controlled by her Venusian ancestors. The Venusian girl properly predicts the rebirth of Rodan as well as the resurgence of Godzilla. Mothra's fairies are seen on a game show, and soon Mothra becomes a key player in the plot. Not long after Godzilla shows up, Rodan and Godzilla start to fight each other, but this is after Godzilla tramples his way through multiple cities to get to Mount Fuji. Later on, the meteor that crashed in the mountains transforms and turns into Ghidorah. Ghidorah wreaks havoc on Japan, meanwhile Godzilla and Rodan are fighting. During all of this, there's assassins who are trying to kill the princess, who is currently being controlled by the Venusian. There's also a subplot involving a reporter, a scientist, as well as a police officer trying to protect the princess. Mothra is called upon to bring some sense to Godzilla and Rodan and get the two of them to fight Ghidorah and protect Earth. After some monster chat, they eventually agree after seeing Mothra try and take on Ghidorah alone and losing, and all three monsters team up to fight the one three-headed dragon. This is a fairly complex plot, and like I said earlier, we are for sure not going to see all of it carried over into the 2019 film. However, there are some things that we could see brought over from the old movie into this one. First, let's talk about what's going to be different. Number one, the main difference is that in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Rodan and Mothra were already established characters in the Toho universe. In the Toho universe, Mothra had her first appearance in 1961 in her own solo movie, where we followed her from egg to giant moth. She later was brought into Godzilla in 1964 in Mothra vs. Godzilla. Years before that, in 1956, Toho released the movie Rodan. In the movie Rodan, you follow the monster from birth to death, where you see Rodan die with his mate. Clearly, the legendary MonsterVerse has not developed the characters of Mothra or Rodan whatsoever. It can be assumed that the audience will know nothing about these characters going into the movie, so they will have to be built from the ground up in this movie, meaning we are going to have to dedicate some screen time to the backstories of both Mothra and Rodan. We know that these characters are already existing in this legendary universe, so I don't expect to see Rodan's birth or Mothra's birth from egg. One thing I think will be carried over from Mothra vs. Godzilla is the story where a full-grown Mothra fights Godzilla, eventually dies, and then later, baby caterpillar Mothras hatch from an egg and then team up to fight Godzilla. Although I think the difference is, in Godzilla King of the Monsters, I feel like it will be something more like this, where the full-grown Mothra will fight Godzilla. She will die, and the baby Mothras will hatch. Soon afterward, Ghidorah will become the main prevalent threat of the movie, and they will all have to team up against him. I do think one thing that will be brought over from the original Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster will be the fact that Ghidorah is the thing that will unite all the other monsters against something. To get back into the differences really quick before we get into the similarities, I guarantee the subplot with the princess and the Venusians is cut out of this next movie. We might see something similar in terms of a police story or in terms of a scientist story, but we are not going to see anything even close to as crazy as it was with the Venusian prophetess, or the Mothra fairies for that matter. I don't expect the Mothra fairies to be brought over in the exact form as they were in the old movies. If the Mothra fairies appear in the legendary MonsterVerse, they will not appear as tiny fairies. It is almost guaranteed. They will more than likely appear as full-grown human twins. Whether they have a psychic connection to Mothra or not, it doesn't matter. I'm sure that they will be brought into the movie in some incarnation. Now getting into the similarities here. One thing that will be brought over from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster into Godzilla King of the Monsters is Godzilla and Rodan's rivalry. The two of them, in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, are natural rivals, Godzilla being an alpha predator in the legendary universe.
An ancient alpha predator. We call him Godzilla.
It will make complete sense for him to be going against Rodan, this other alpha predator that shows up and destroys his little ecosystem. We also know Godzilla has a power to restore balance, so it will make sense that he'll team up against Ghidorah when Ghidorah eventually arrives.
Nature has an order, a power to restore balance. I believe he is that power.
I do think Mothra and Godzilla will also fight in the new movie, for the reason of, Mothra is also going to be a very large creature that's going to destroy Godzilla's whole balance that he has going on with the world. Getting into Ghidorah's storyline, I don't know if we'll get the cosmic monster storyline as we got in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. In Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Ghidorah was this cosmic monster that went planet to planet annihilating people. He is what wiped out the Venusians, and now he is here on Earth to kill everybody.
It is gonna send us back to the Stone Age!
He is stopped by Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra when they all team up against him. I'm sure something similar to this will be happening in the legendary monsterverse. However, I don't think he's going to be a space monster. I think what they'll go with instead is that he's going to be this kind of perfect creation. Somehow, genetically, he is just superior to every other monster. And I'm sure he will defeat Godzilla in their first encounter. The reason I think this is because in all the other movies, Ghidorah has never actually one-upped Godzilla. He's never beaten Godzilla his first time around. And in order to establish Ghidorah as a real threat, they will have to have Ghidorah win against Godzilla the first time round. This will also give Godzilla good reason to team up with Mothra and Rodan, because one thing I think will be carried over from the original is that Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra will all have to fight Ghidorah together. One thing that's best about Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster is seeing the three of them use their abilities to help each other. Seeing Mothra ride on Rodan's back and seeing Godzilla give Mothra a ride on his tail, these are little things that really help the movie and give this movie a great feel. This is something that I'm sure Michael Dougherty will not miss up upon. He will see this opportunity and he'll take it. So will Godzilla King of the Monsters be a remake of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monsters? No, most likely not. We're going to lose the entire plot of the Venusian. We're going to most likely lose the Mothra fairies. We're going to have to introduce Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah into this new universe, as well as really establish Godzilla's status quo. Another big change that will be made is the fact that in the originals, Godzilla was the villain by this point in the series. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster was his transition into an anti-hero. The legendary monsterverse already starts out with Godzilla as this kind of anti-superhero, where yes, he may cause a little bit of damage, but no, he's not going to go out of his way to do so. In fact, he does the opposite. He goes out of his way to save people and restore balance. I'm not sure that that whole storyline will be carried over into Michael Dougherty's Godzilla King of the Monsters. In fact, I think in order to set up a real rivalry between Godzilla and Kong, we have to transition into much more of an anti-hero, much darker version of Godzilla for the next movie in order to give Kong a reason to fight him. But I don't think we're going to get anywhere near as close as we were in the old movies, where in Mothra vs. Godzilla, Godzilla was established as a real threat, a real thing to be feared. And in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, it was a huge turning point in his character for him to become the good guy. They might play up upon this in terms of reimagining this storyline and having Godzilla go from the superhero, seeing Ghidorah, and somehow becoming the villain in some way, shape, or form. It might be an interesting play to have Godzilla try to defeat Ghidorah in order to save the Earth, and maybe the humans nuke him, or maybe they do something to hurt Godzilla, kill Mothra, maybe they kill Mothra's babies, or maybe Rodan is killed after Godzilla and Mothra and Rodan all team up, and this really shows Godzilla that the humans cannot be trusted either, that they're not the good guys, that he has to stop them in order to restore balance as well. That might be a very interesting way to remix what happened in the original movie, where Godzilla went from this force of nature, this very brutal monster that just killed everybody, into this superhero. I have a lot of thoughts on this movie at this time, and of course it is a couple years away, so we will have many discussions about this movie in the upcoming future, especially when the movie gets closer to the release and we start seeing trailers and start getting plot information. I will definitely discuss this topic again. I just really wanted to make a video talking about if Godzilla King of the Monsters was going to be a remake of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monsters, and I think we can say no, it won't, especially because Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster really wouldn't fit well into this legendary monsterverse, especially after Godzilla 2014. Yes, Kong Skull Island took this universe in a much more fantasy-type tone, opposed to a much more gritty tone, but I don't think we're there to the level of this campy goofiness as we were in the Showa series, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think we should get to this level, and I'm worried that the legendary monsterverse will eventually go down that path with the new director for Godzilla vs. Kong. Like I said though, I will definitely be discussing this topic more in the future. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What do you think? Is this going to be a remake of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster? What elements of the original plot do you think will be carried over? And what elements of the original plot do you think will be left out of the movie altogether? What do you think will be carried over from Kong Skull Island in order to tie the two movies together? And what do you think we can expect to see from the sequel of Godzilla 2014? Let me know down below, and I might do a video discussing your guys' thoughts and giving my opinions on them. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. D-Man